Is your business protected against the threat of malicious litigation and frivolous lawsuits? Are you sinking company profits into marketing campaigns that do nothing to contribute to the growth of your business? Bottled Business Sense provides practical business perspectives that uniquely emphasize both legal and media marketing strategies to protect and ensure the longevity of your business. Now, whether you're trying to provide a startup business with some level of stability or an established business with foolproof asset and estate protection, or simply attempting to get a better return for your business marketing dollars, Bill Bernard and Rick Moscoso will expose potential pitfalls to ensure the security and growth of your business, free from unwanted expense and the threat of litigation. You'll learn how to implement marketing and protection tools equal to those used by today's most successful corporations. Let's join Bill and Rick for today's Bottled Business Sense show.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. This is Rick Moscoso. I'm here with my co-host, Bill Bernard. How you doing, Bill?
Good morning, Rick. Good to be back with everyone today for another show. Looking forward to it.
All right, great. Well, we are the Bottled Business Sense Show. We air every Tuesday at 10 a.m. here on our website, simulcast at bottledbusinesssenseshow.com or on Blog Talk Radio. Either way, it's a simulcast that we provide for people that we provide general information both on a legal side and on a marketing side for small businesses.
That's right, Rick, and we're really essentially here to make sure that the small business owner or entrepreneur has available to him a way to protect his business, which is the symbol that we use on our logo, the ship in the bottle, and also to move that ship along by properly marketing his business and being able to make it more profitable while he's protected. That's really what we're all about.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, if you have more specific questions on the marketing side or legal side, what we try and do is provide value in the form of general information. This by no means, and I'm sure you'd agree, Bill, is legal advice or very strict marketing advice. For that type of thing, you really need to talk to your professional specifically about that, right?
Right, and that's why I have if you watch the end of the show, you'll see the disclaimer that I have on there. You can give out general information, educational information, but to particularize it to a person's specific needs, you have to meet with that person because things can be tweaked and changed and not necessarily apply verbatim, as we say on the show. We've got to be able to personalize it.
Yeah, exactly. And folks, if you have questions that you'd like to feed into the show or maybe recommended topics for future shows that we're going to do, feel free to email us at any time at bottlebusinesssenseshow@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google Plus at the same name, or you can tweet in on Twitter, obviously at BB Show.
Yes, and we're here. We're one of the few shows that I know of that does a simulcast, because Rick works his magic here and enables us to be seen and heard. And only you will be able to decide if that's a plus or a minus. But listen to the information, because that's really that's why we're really all gathered here today. So we can get started.
Exactly. Well, great. But today's topic, Bill, we're going to talk a little bit about fictitious business names, or DBAs, and
yes,
we're going to help overview for our audience, basically what it is, why it was created, who should use it, and the caveats, the advantages and disadvantages on both sides.
Exactly. Many people just think when they go into business, they should have a DBA. And some people think that they should have a DBA and necessarily don't have to have any kind of a business entity. There are certain caveats to which way you go, and I think we'll point out some of those important distinctions today. But when you call it a DBA, essentially stands for doing business as, and it is otherwise known as a fictitious business name, and it essentially is there to let the public know who the owner of the business is. And this ties right in with your knowledge, Rick, of marketing, because you create this designation, if you will, this DBA, to be able to market something, right?
Yeah.
In other
Right,
words, you
right.
may want to say, I'm Rick Moscoso, but I have R2 Visual Studios, and I'm going to use R2 Visual Studios as my DBA. But if somebody wants to see, hey, who's behind this DBA, they're able to check and find out that it's a fictitious business name standing really for Rick Moscoso
Right.
and his partner.
Yeah, it's a great marketing tool, but if done correctly.
That's right.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today.
That's right. So it is, this ties in perfectly to some of the things we spoke to everyone about earlier in earlier shows. It is for protection. But remember, this time we're talking about consumer protection, right? Because in the past shows we've always geared on, okay, well, how do we protect the business owner?
Yeah.
How do we make sure his business is secure, his assets are secure? Well, we can't forget about the consumer.
Yeah,
And
explain
so-
that a little bit, because it's a different spin on what we've been talking about in the
Well,
past.
it identifies who the real guy is behind the DBA. You're able to identify who that guy is, and that protects consumers. Imagine if you had R2 Visual Studios and nobody could ever find out who R2 Visual Studios was, really, assuming R2 was using a DBA, assuming it is a DBA. How is a consumer, if he feels wrong, gonna have his rights protected?
Yeah.
He's not going to know, right?
Right.
So typically when you file your DBA, it's and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, we publish it in a newspaper, and people actually now know that a DBA exists. It's published for a certain period of time, and that takes care of any issues that might be arising out there where people may have a similar or same DBA. You're going to have to publish it, make sure no one has any complaints about that, and then after the certain period of time, and I can't give you a specific time because it's different in every area that you may be in, you're going to have to wait that particular period of time, and after that time runs, your DBA is official.
Right. Now, just so we're clear on this for our viewers, the DBA actually sits on top of the LLC or the corporate name, correct?
No, not necessarily.
No.
No, a
Okay.
DBA, we're going to get to some of those issues, but a DBA is when a person or a business wants to operate, they can operate without any formalized business entity. So a DBA is not structured in and of itself as a corporation or an LLC. It stands on its own and protects the consumer, but affords no protection to the business owner.
That makes
Okay.
sense. Okay.
Now, there are ways you would use a DBA and also have protection for the business owner. For example, you may be a sole proprietor in a general partnership conducting business as a DBA, right? You may have a fictitious business name. And I wrote this example down because I'm not good at remembering specific examples, but here's an example I chose, and let me read it for the viewers and the listeners. If Jane Doe wants to open a bookstore called Books for Cooks, she would need to file a DBA because she's no longer operating as Jane Doe, she's operating as Books for Cooks, right? So you're going to want to have that DBA. Let's leave aside any protection for that business now. There's no LLC, no corporation involved, just a DBA. Why would Jane want to operate her business as Books for Cooks? Why? What would be your motive?
Well, I mean, with a name as obvious as that, it's a great marketing name, right?
It's a marketing tool, and it allows identification to a particular product that she has, right?
Right.
So that would be one example of a sole proprietor, or perhaps Jane's in partnership with somebody. Remember, a general partnership has no liability protection at all. I've said way early on in our shows that I frown on partnerships, but if you're in a partnership with somebody, a general partnership, or as you're a sole entrepreneur, you may be doing business as a DBA where the consumer is afforded protection by way of knowing your identity, but you are not afforded any liability protection.
Right.
Standing on its own.
Now, in that example with the
Yes.
the books or cooks for, what was it?
It is called Books for Cooks.
Okay, Books for Cooks. Now, if she had another product that she would have market or were to market through her business, that would possibly require another DBA. Correct?
Another DBA, but in that instance, now that you ask, here's what I would suggest that she does. Let's say she opens up an LLC, and she has a business for that LLC. she could have various DBAs underneath that LLC doing business as Jane's Cookery, doing business as Books for Cooks, and doing business as, I don't know, Recipes for Housewives, that love Asian food or love Hispanic food or love any kind of food, Indian food, whatever you want to choose. You could have the protection of that LLC by just identifying, and for marketing purposes and consumer protection purposes, having DBAs underneath that formalized entity structure.
Okay. But you could still do that even without the formalized entity structure.
Yes,
correct?
you could,
Yeah.
but again, you don't have any protection for yourself.
Right.
Okay. So, interestingly enough, now, if another example would be, let's say you have an LLC, right? Jane's Cookery. And let's say you want to have janescookery.com. You should have janescookery.com listed as a DBA because you're selling your products on janescookery.com. Even though you have your LLC, you may want to give it a DBA for identification purposes because you're not just selling it at your brick and mortar store, you're selling it online on a .com site.
Okay.
So you'd have your LLC set up and then janescookery.com. So my point is this. If you have a business and you have an LLC, but you are also doing business on a website, a .com or a .net or whatever it may be, that .com or .net should have a separate DBA attached to it, even though you already have an LLC. How do we distinguish that? Why am I bringing this up? Because if you're just running a regular business and you have an LLC and you have a S Corp or a C Corp or whatever it might be, you don't have to have a DBA. You're not required to have a DBA. But if you're going to have a separate offshoot of that business, you're more than likely going to want to list it as a DBA because that consumer has to be protected.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay. So let's talk about, we've touched upon it a little, let's talk about some of the benefits of a DBA. Well, the first benefit is it keeps you in compliance with the law. It typically is also the least expensive way you can do business.
So explain that to our viewers in compliance with the law. What are the law requirements?
Just what we've been discussing. It keeps you in compliance with the law. We're not talking about how you procedurally set it up yet. We'll get to that.
Okay.
It keeps you in compliance with the law because it allows consumers to know who you are. You have to be able to find a way. If you're just doing business as Rick Moscoso, maybe not the greatest marketing tool in the world unless you're, a Donald Trump or you're famous or something like that.
Right.
But people now know you. Okay, they know who you are, and they're able to find out where to get a hold of you. If you're doing business as R2 Visual Studios and that's your DBA, well then you should have that DBA so the consumer is protected and can find out who the heck is behind R2 Visual Studios.
So really the whole purpose of this is so the consumer is protected.
The consumer is protected, yes. That's the real issue of DBA. You look at the other side, the flip side of the DBA, why it's not so good for the business owner. It's good for the business owner who understands his potential pitfalls, okay? And he wants to stay in compliance with the law as far as the consumer is concerned. But from a personal standpoint, a business standpoint, he doesn't have a formal entity, right? Yeah. So his assets are not protected should a lawsuit arise. Okay. So that's a big distinction we need to make. And the other benefits, again, that I think we want to just touch upon, it's worth mentioning again, is that it really helps market your products and services and helps create a separate professional identity. And you could really speak more to that, Rick.
I'm very familiar with content creation, and there's different products and services that we offer, within R2.
Well, give us a good example. Why is it beneficial for you and your partner to use R2 Visual Studios as opposed to Rick Moscoso and your partner's name? I won't divulge your partner unless you want to, but what's the benefit of that?
Well, the benefit is really brand identity for us. Because we service different types of industries. we do a lot of personal service for weddings and headshots and that sort of stuff. But we also do the commercial side where we're doing real estate, right? And so, but everything's under the R2 Visual Studios name. But using a DBA like R2 Real Estate Media helps identify that particular portion of our company and brands us very specifically. So the real estate agent or somebody in that industry knows exactly what we do, right?
And what's the meaning of R2? Because if you look at Rick's logo, folks, you will see it has a very close identification to a very famous R2, right?
Yeah, right. Well, when we first joined forces, my partner and I, his first name is Ruel, and we went back and forth for quite some time trying to figure out what's a good company name, and we came up with R2, Rick and Ruel. So we just took that, turned it into R2. And then that was our brand identity when we created.
Now, people are more apt to remember R2 than Rick and Ruel, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Much less pronounce it. Right?
Yeah, right. Say that 3 times fast, right? You're in good trouble.
Right.
But now remember, in a DBA, you're another defect, if you will, if you want to use that term. First is no asset protection, but secondly, you have no trademark protection. So somebody can use your DBA unless it's trademarked. So if somebody else picks up on R2 Visual Studios, if it's not trademarked, and if it's only a DBA, not an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, somebody can then use that DBA.
Right, and there's no recourse, right?
Right, no recourse. Well, no easy recourse.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into starting malicious litigation just for the sake of starting it, because I don't promote that.
Yeah.
And I'm dead set against it. But the thing to do is to try to negotiate with somebody to find a way to resolve the problem.
Right.
Now if it's in a different industry altogether, you might just say, "Oh, the heck with it. Why bother?" If there's nobody using R2 Visual Studios but R2 something else, it really depends on the level of your fame and notoriety. But of course, at some point in time, as that progresses, if you don't do it at the very beginning, which you should get a trademark. Okay, so for sole proprietors, I do want to mention that a DBA is required to have a bank account. So you're not going to be able to go to a bank and have somebody write out a check to R2 Visual Studios and deposit it in your personal account. The bank is going to want a special DBA account set up, and that's going to usually be done once you get the county or state document that officially says that you've run your ad in the newspaper, your DBA is official, this DBA has been issued, and now you can set up your bank account. The bank's going to want to see that.
Yeah, right.
So that's important to know. And I think we mentioned the fact that LLCs, you can have DBAs underneath LLCs, and that's as well as other corporations. How do you go about filing this DBA? Well, it's different in different areas. In some states, you register your DBA with the state, the Secretary of State. Others, you register with the county. Here in Orange County, you go down to the county office, you register your DBA, you set up an ad in the newspaper that you pick, you pay the filing fees, and you're off and running, and you wait for the process to take its course, after which your DBA will be issued.
Yeah. Typically, what's the waiting period for that? I mean,
well, it varies. The last time I checked with the county, and I'd have to check with the county again, but typically in our county, I believe it was 30 days. I'm not certain if that's been, if it's more or less now, but I think it's around 30 days. And then the county will issue you the DBA. You do have to renew it after so many years as well. You have to keep it running, or else it expires. So, for really good information on this, I would say go to the Small Business Administration website, and they have a chart that shows the requirements for each state in terms of where to file, how long the waiting period is.
Let me ask you something, because since there's an expiration date on this, and if somebody is a little lax in renewing it and it's been expired, somebody else could pick up that same DBA name, right?
Sure. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why you got to be on guard for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a brief break and talk about our first sponsor, Rick. We have a new sponsor today, and his name, he's a financial advisor in the community. Very bright man. I've worked with him before. His name is Roger Downs, Downes, and he works with a group called Tax and Financial Group. And you can find them at www.tf, that's T as in Tom, F as in Frank, group, group.com, tfgroup.com. And they're located at 401 MacArthur Boulevard, Suite 300 in Newport Beach, 92660. And Roger has this unique ability to combine your tax needs with your financial needs and be able to promote financial growth of your assets in a very specialized way. I've met with him on a number of occasions, and I can only tell you this, that he is very, very personable. Number one, he takes his time. You're not rushed. And number two, he has the knowledge to be able to specialize, take whatever you're trying to do and just, run it down the road to where you want to go to reach your goal. Really bright guy, really impressed with him. And again, you can reach him at 949 area code 223-8276. That's 949-223-8276. Roger Downs with the Tax and Financial Group, tfgroup.com.
Okay, great. And folks, we'll have the link below in the summary, so you can go directly to the website, and his contact information will be there as well.
Great.
Okay.
Getting back to DBAs and what is a DBA? How do you do a DBA? Fictitious. Another word for it, of course, is a fictitious name. Doing business as it is really something that needs to be examined closely when you go to do business, because if you're just running your business out of your home and you're selling a few widgets here and there, and you have your relatively small operation, you're by yourself, you may want to consider it. I came across an article not too long ago which basically said, I'm not sure why everybody always needs a business entity in every situation. DBAs are there for a reason, and if you're doing a certain kind of business at a certain kind of level, why bother with a business entity? And remember, as at the top of the show, I think we spoke about the fact that one of the quote-unquote advantages to a DBA is that it's very inexpensive. Mm-hmm. Pay a filing fee. So I was bothered a little bit by that article because, I've always been of the notion that no matter what you're doing, you can be sued. Why? Because you have to take into consideration the malicious litigator. Somebody will find a way, somehow, some way, to try to get to your assets. Now, the opposite end of that argument is, well, if I'm a little mom-and-pop operation out of my home, I may not have much assets. Well, don't forget, without a business entity structure, without an official structure, your personal assets are at risk, not just your business assets, okay? And if you're operating out of your home, your chances are your business assets are your personal assets. Yeah. So you have to be very cautious of that. You have to be aware of it. You have to decide if this DBA is going to be worth your while in the long run. Are you doing the type of business that might be litigious in nature? For example, an in-home care center where you're actually using your own home to care for the elderly. You have a business license. Mm-hmm. You have to operate under very strict law applications, but you do have a license to bring people into your home and care for them. Well, you do have concerns over employees and independent contractors, perhaps, and the elderly that you care for. So it depends on the nature of your business and how big the operation is and what your exposure might be in terms of the type of business that you're conducting. You've got to remember, Rick, that the real essence of using this DBA is really to use it as a tool underneath a formalized structure. Yeah, and what is that used for? Well, as we've mentioned, a marketing tool.
Yeah, and folks, if you're unsure of what the best thing to do, is for your business, then, contact a guy like Bill or contact Bill directly, and he can help you out and guide you in the right direction.
Yeah. I'd be happy to do that. That's really, the nuts and bolts of it for our show today. It's a short and sweet show, but I wanted to present this because I've had a lot of questions about it, mainly in the area of how you distinguish this, what kind of protection, if any, does it give? We know it gives none. And again, how do you distinguish it between formalized business entities, and when do you use it? How do you go about filing one? Again, check on the websites, the Small Business Administration website, your local Secretary of State, your local county sites, wherever you are, and you'll be able to get specific information on how and where to file. But essentially, no matter where it is, it's a very straightforward process, very inexpensive process, and you're probably going to end up even doing it online at this point in time.
Right. Yeah. If you have any questions that you want to direct to Bill regarding DBAs or fictitious business names, you can always send an email into our email address at bottlebusinessshow@gmail.com, or below this video, you can put in your comments, post a question, and Bill will respond directly in the feed below this video.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do it. Before we close the show, though, Rick, tell us a little bit about R2 in the sense that I know we've talked briefly about R2 in the commercial side and the headshots and weddings. But the part that I find most fascinating about R2 is the ability to market a business for somebody else, much in the way you market our show through your visual magic.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Bill. R2 Visual Studios, we do a lot of different things, and primarily, we're all about visual media, whether it's a headshot, a family photo, a wedding, an engagement, all those type of personal consumer type of photography, as well as video marketing. This show is all about video marketing. We're promoting to the small business owner,
right.
And we felt that one of the best mediums to present this show in is through video,
right.
And really promotes what a lot of the stuff that we do. So, from a visual media or video marketing standpoint, we help businesses promote their why, what, and how.
Well, for example, Rick, if somebody walked up to you on the street and said, "Mr. Moscoso, I've got two available ways to listen to your show. I can go to Blog Talk Radio, or I can go to your website at bottlebusinesssense.com. More than likely, you're going to say go to bottlebusinesssense.com because you can see the video, right?
Right.
A simulcast. What does that video and simulcast add to the program that maybe someone wouldn't get if they just listened to it on Blog Talk Radio?
Well, they get to see our beautiful mugs, right?
Other than that.
Yeah. It gives the person an idea of the our character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Easier to connect with. I always want to see the face behind the camera, or a face behind the voice in the if it was a radio or just an audio only, because to me that adds credibility, so I can see who's speaking to me and make a visual assessment on, those guys look pretty trustworthy. I think I'd be interested in doing business with them.
Right.
So to me, visual media in the form of video is way more valuable than just the spoken voice, because you could have somebody with a great sounding voice but doesn't look credible. I got a question. I don't want to be. For me, I don't want to ever be put in that position where I'm being questioned because I'm not sure who that guy is behind the camera.
Yeah. Well, for example, another good example would be if you're on LinkedIn, right? You're on LinkedIn, and you have the ability to download videos on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you could put whatever's in that video in words on LinkedIn and present it to whoever comes to your particular page. But you have a video in place of those words, and it presents a much more powerful presentation. It allows somebody's attention span to focus on what's moving in front of them, right? And then they decide from there, hey, this presentation sounds
And
incredible.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But more than that, you can use videos in a marketing sense, can't you, Rick? In terms of shooting them out on emails, shooting them out on various different social media sites that allow you to also embed various SEO content that improves your marketing. How does that differ from using a if you're gonna do a some sort of a blog each week?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a distinction between using a blog and embedding SEO in that versus using a video and embedding SEO in that and then sending it out?
Well, let's take a look at that, because that's a great question. If you are doing video and you are hosting your videos on YouTube, let's take a look at that, because YouTube's the second most popular search engine out there. So you have Google and you have YouTube, which Google owns. You have a 1-2 punch in your SEO, you know, and without really doing a lot of additional SEO. Let's say you just simply wanted to do that. You've boosted your SEO automatically by not only having your website on listed in Google someplace, but you also have the strength of video because you're using YouTube, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's and at the end of the day, people want to know who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's instant gratification.
That's the important part.
Yeah, they want to know who you are. They want to know that they can trust you. They'll watch a video to learn about you before they really read about you, and they'll search all over the place. And if they see a video, they'll watch it before they even call you, because that's really where they make the determination. Is this guy worthy of my time to call him to see if he can help me?
Right, and I think we've mentioned down the road we are going to be doing an SEO show, and one of the interesting things there will be how and where to do it and the different tools to utilize. And SEO, again, I'm sure everybody knows, but just in case there are some people out there that don't, search engine optimization, and those are various words that you use to get found on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to get a hold of me, if you have any additional questions, you can connect with me at Rick at r2visualstudios.com. Our website is r2visualstudios.com. We're on social media. And you can reach me directly at 949-667-1182.
Fantastic, Rick. Thank you. And just a quick announcement before we end the show. You know, it's been our practice to usually indicate to everybody what our next show is going to be about. But now, as our sponsors are increasing and guests will be coming on the show a little more frequently, our hope is, it's kind of hard to fine-tune exactly what episode or what show will be coming after the other. So we found it best just to basically advertise it on social media when we have it in the tank, so to speak. So look for our posts on Twitter. You can find them on Bottle Business Sense, the Twitter site.
BB Sense Show.
BB Sense Show. WFBLC, which is my Twitter account for WFB Legal Consulting. You can find it on LinkedIn at my WFBLC site on LinkedIn, on Rick's sites at R2 Visual Studio, and of course on Facebook. So look for that, and we'll always be able to give you at least a heads up as to hopefully as early as we can as to what's going on. So we will, at that, say adieu, and we'll look forward to another show next week, Rick. And I hope everybody got some benefit out of this show today. And we're here every Tuesday at 10 a.m., right?
Right, absolutely. We'll see you next week, same time, same bad channel.
You got it. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a prosperous week.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.